Hey, this is Jeff Staple from Hype Radio, and I'm here to make an important announcement. As you know, HYPEBEAST Radio started off a year ago as just one single show. Today, that one show has successfully grown into an entire platform. And if you've noticed, we're now calling it Hype Radio. Hype Radio currently has 3 shows. One is my show, The Business of Hype. The other 2 shows are The HBR Show and Soundcheck. The HBR Show, hosted by HYPEBEAST senior editor Robert Marshall, is the original HYPEBEAST radio show, hence the name, and it's where the industry's most innovative and inspiring creatives come on and talk directly to their fans, discussing their journey towards success, lessons learned along the way, and thoughts on the state of the culture, all in real time. The Soundcheck Show, hosted by HYPEBEAST music editor Manny Madakalam, is our look at the entire music scene at large. Manny brings you in-depth conversations with your favorite musicians and industry figures, digging into their origin stories and asking the tough questions that you want answered. Together, our 3 shows now form Hype Radio, and you can bet there will be more shows on the horizon. Now, this is where your part comes in. As you might have noticed, currently, by subscribing to HYPEBEAST Radio or Hype Radio, you're getting all 3 shows served up to you. Well, now we are going to separate them so that you can choose which shows you want to subscribe to. And I highly encourage you subscribe to all 3. So this show that you're currently listening to, this will only serve out the business of hype. And if you want to keep hearing the HBR show and the Soundcheck show, you'll need to, right now, subscribe to them individually. And you'll definitely want to do that right away because you never know who's going to drop into the studio. So whether you're on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast, search HBR Show and Soundcheck and subscribe today. Okay, let's get back to this week's episode. From HYPEBEAST and Hype Radio, I am Jeff Staple, and this is The Business of Hype, a show about creative entrepreneurs, brand builders, innovators, and the realities behind the dreams they've built. Oftentimes on this show, we have a single-minded, focused expert in a particular field. It's rare that we have a guest like we do on this one, where one creative mind extends to so many different fields, from high fashion to film to gaming to automotive. It's also extremely rare that a designer has stunt car driving on their resume. Mai Ikuzawa is such a person. And besides hearing all of her unique skills and talents, we also get to hear about her journey from owning a rather large agency to downsizing herself to a single entity, and the trials and tribulations in between. The journey takes her all the way from Tokyo, Japan, to her home studio in London, England, where we recorded this episode. So buckle up. Everyone welcome Mai Ikuzawa to The Business of Hype.
My name is Mai Ikuzawa. I'm a creative director. My agency is called Bow Wow International, but it's difficult to really describe what I do because I'm beyond a creative director. I'm beyond visual arts, and I often struggle to actually explain what I do.
But creative director is kind of like the closest moniker you found?
I think so. You could find me one if you want after this interview.
Okay, yeah, I'll help you. And your company name is Bow Wow International.
Yes.
Why Bow Wow?
So when I left art college, I went to Central St. Martin's back in the 90s. I don't want to...
Very good school.
Very good school. And I went into advertising and big agencies, didn't like it. So naturally, I started my own kind of design company back then, and I called it Meow.
Okay.
I just thought that it would be really funny for an agency that had like girl staff, me and my 2 designers, that we were all girls at the time, and we'll pick up the phone when clients call, and we'll just go meow.
That was your vision.
That was my vision. And so that was then, and subsequently things went wrong, as they do with your first projects. things. I fell out with my business partner, so I came back with a bang.
Yeah.
Okay, if cat's no good, we'll go for the dog.
Yeah.
And it just Bow Wow stuck with me, and I think I don't know, as a name, it's quite bold and funny. And
yeah. And the international
catchy.
Part is like global dogs.
Global dogs, yeah. The gang.
Right. Actually, I didn't know about Meow. So how long did Meow exist for?
Oh my god, I can't remember. Possibly like 5 to 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in a 5 to 10 year business, there's got to be some level of success that you had before it had a falling apart.
Yeah, I had about 15 people working full time. We had a huge office based in Clerkenwell, East London. I mean, it was a proper agency, and back in those days, to get those big clients, you had to have the boardroom, account handlers.
Yeah.
You know, it was very, very kind of
corporate almost.
Corporate.
Yeah.
Corporate design ad agency.
And you founded it with 2 other friends?
No, it was myself, and I had a business partner.
Okay.
And
what happened?
Oh, just different visions. Okay. To put it politely. And it just didn't work out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you Bow Wow is yourself, you don't have partners in Bow Wow, right?
No. So I think we learn pretty fast, or we hope to learn pretty fast from our mistakes. And for me personally, one, to not have business partners, and 2, not to have staff, or to keep it minimal.
Okay.
Well, for me anyway, I just thought that, especially from a visual creative background, just managing people just took so much of my time and energy, and it just didn't suit my personality.
Yeah, being a boss.
Being a boss.
Yeah.
The American dream, or in this case, the British dream. Co-founding a big design agency, employing dozens of people, big clients on the roster, the corner office. For most people, this is the dream. But Mai realized that for her, at least in this particular phase of her life, this was actually the nightmare. And her goals shifted. She now has no office and no employees. So this isn't a story of massive growth. It's actually a story of self-awareness. The lesson here is that you can't live life trying to live someone else's dream. You have to know how to draft your own and live it to the fullest.
Well, what would you say are the pros and the cons of having a partner? Because there's plenty of businesses that have partnerships and
That's
they're fine.
true.
So what are some positives and then some negatives?
Oh, because when things go wrong in a business, if you have a business partner, you have somebody to really, as your, sidekick, to really support each other through anything that goes wrong, or
you have a shoulder to sort of lean on. Yeah.
And to share ideas. I think you can't always think on your own on how to build and plan a business going forward. So yes, for sure, there's definitely pros of having a good business partner.
Yeah. And then the cons are, like you said, vision is different.
Vision. I think as businesses grow, as people change, I don't know, it just becomes complicated. Even if you become business partners with your best friend, you hear all the time.
That might be the worst, actually.
That might be the worst.
Because if you lose the partner, you also lose a friend. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So Bow Wow, you decided you're going to do it all by yourself. And no employees. And I think what's funny is the person who actually introduced us was Hiroshi Fujiwara, who was my first subject on Business of Hype. And when I talked to him about the company of Fragment, it only has 2 employees, Ku and Kojiro. And he said he never wants to grow it beyond that. So his goal is also to keep his company as small as possible. And you say you have 0 employees.
Yes. So I think, going back to Hiroshi Fujiwara, I remember really funnily our time, I think it was probably the first time we met, me and you, Jeff. We were driving Hiroshi's Mercedes DTM around Tokyo.
Yep, that beautiful Mercedes.
Black Batmobile, and we were just fascinated. I mean, it must have been 10 years ago. No?
Yeah, at least.
And the GPS was like beyond the world, 3-dimensional map.
Yeah. I know. You were like, wow, this map.
But nothing's progressed since then. It's weird, isn't it? The automotive industry. Anyway, just sidetracking there. But yes, I think there's something really important to learn from Hiroshi. I also believe that the industry has changed a lot, that big corporate clients don't mind you being a sole trader or independent.
Yeah.
In fact, they probably prefer that because of the overheads and agency fees, for example. And, in the last 10 years, yes, I have had an assistant or two, like Hiroshi. But, you can be honest and say, this is us. This is just two of us. And they're like, oh, okay. But then, you have the breadth of experience and you have the network that you've built. It's just not physically possible to finance full-time web developers or typographers or film directors or graphic designers full-time because, you're always trying to feed all these overheads.
Yeah. And I would also argue that trying to employ full-time good ones, like really, really good ones, they don't want to really work full-time for somebody. So you might be able to find like a low-level sort of mediocre one. But if you want good people, they're on their own probably as well.
They're all on their own, exactly. I think that's what the industry is now. You're not going to trap these very, very creative people in a 9-to-5 job. Similarly, you're not going to be in the office 9 to 5, nor am I. You have to give people the flexibility to travel, do their own stuff. And
there used to be a stigma, I think, against like single or like, small entities where like a client might think like, oh, this isn't professional enough of a setup, right?
Yes.
But I do agree with you. I think in the past couple of years, it's been like actually the bigger agencies that have hundreds of employees and account service people are now sort of frowned upon.
Yes, no, that's true.
Because they sort of are like the big sloth that can't react, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, recently I've had experiences where clients have come back to me and they say, sorry, we've made a mistake. We thought that you couldn't manage the project. And we went to a big agency and we had such a terrible time.
Yeah. So much bureaucracy, so much expense, right? Yeah.
So much. We're coming back to you. And it's like, okay, I'll charge you 30% more, but you...
As a penalty fee?
I take you back.
Right.
Mai Ikuzawa has been called a creative mastermind, and sometimes these personality types take a long and winding road to find out what really makes them tick. I know we drew a comparison to Hiroshi and Fragment and their commitment to keeping their team small. Mai obviously reinforces that idea here. Sometimes creative individuals simply don't work well with others. Oftentimes their vision is just not up for debate or compromise. But finding that out can be a painful process. And you could hear it a bit when Mai talks about disbanding her previous venture, Meow. There is often a relief in moving beyond the bureaucracy of a large team and getting back to what makes you tick as an individual enterprise. The good thing is, these days, we seem to be on a trend where the stigma has been removed from small-scale creative enterprises. It seems in design, as in sport, the ability to be fast and nimble always wins out.
My clients really pan across lots of different industries. I do specialize in automotive, as you know. Motorsports, my background is in, I used to work a lot in the movies. I had, for example, Universal Pictures and Working Title Films as a long-term client. Technologies like gaming, properties, high fashion, design.
Those are very disparate, like to a layman, just like movie industry, automotive industry, gaming, and high fashion. That I mean, if you know Mai, that is you. But those are very like wide, different audiences, I would say.
I think it's true, and I do come from a very I don't know, what do you call it? Not a very
Traditional,
yeah.
non-traditional.
I come from a very non-traditional background, and I think that shows in my concepts and ideas. And having been born in Japan but being brought up in the UK, you know, there's this amazing sense of humor and sense of fun that I really picked up from the UK.
Yeah.
That really shows in my work as well. So there is that seriousness and precision that I get from the Japanese kind of background.
The work ethic side.
But then, you know, there's always a sense of fun and humor in my work. And I think that's what my clients always seek when they hire me, is that they love the kind of the precision, but also the fun I bring to the table. So it's always very, very unique.
I looked at your website, you know, just to do a little bit of research.
I haven't updated it in about 5 years.
One of the, you know, under where it says work, and then it says like, you know, photography, videography, like, you know, creative direction. There's also like stunt driving.
Yes.
Is that by you? That would be by you, right?
That would be by me, yeah.
Okay, talk a little bit more about stunt driving and how that came to be as a skill set that you offer.
Oh my goodness, so where do we go? So, for people who don't know me, I was born in Japan, and my father was quite a legendary racing driver, and I'm his only child. So from a very young age, my father will throw me into a go-kart or motocross, and I'll be forced to, I don't know, every weekend drive or ride or whatever. I hated it. You know, I was a conventional girl.
Yeah.
I just wanted to play at home with my dolls. But eventually, the brainwashing really
And it brought you to races, I assume. So you're around mechanics and like gearheads the whole time.
So back in the 80s, you know, motor racing wasn't so glamorous. It was more intimate, very family orientated, in a way that, you know, we share pit lanes, and you know, you could walk into other people's garages, not like today's Formula One where there's security everywhere.
Right.
So I'll be doing my homework in my motorhome, and you know, there'll be the mechanics just kicking ball with me, and you know, all that fun. So all this kind of, I don't know, my life was, you know, away from the conventional, and also family holidays were always, you know, going to Disneyland, but we'll have to detour to some workshop or engine builder on the way.
Yeah.
So
very unique upbringing, right?
Very unique background. And that eventually, you know, so this is quite fun. You know, I do appreciate the aesthetics of cars and bikes, as well as the freedom that you enjoy from driving, for example. So so later in my life, I started to, I enjoy long road trips and everything, but I started to kind of start training as a racing driver.
Okay, so you thought about maybe really getting into it. Cool.
Yeah.
You actually took training lessons and stuff?
I trained for a long time. I used to, like, every break I had, every bit of money that I had left over, I'll get my racing instructor and go to, you know, there's so many race circuits in the UK, you know. Yeah. So I'll drive to a race circuit and, you know.
Did you ever compete in races?
Just a little bit, But unfortunately, or fortunately, as soon as I got my license and I was able to compete, I found myself pregnant.
That's not unfortunate.
So that kind of put a slight stall in my racing career. But there was a lot of people around me that really supported my racing career, my racing career that debuted but never went anywhere.
Did you ever have like a desire to go into the sort of more artistic, like, car design side?
Car design is really tricky. Actually, Actually, I appreciate good car design, but I'm terrible at 3D design.
Oh, okay. So you're more graphic design.
Graphic design, yeah.
I recently interviewed a product designer who said, for product design in that field, automotive design is sort of like the echelon. Like you could design, like a fork, a spoon, a table, a chair, but automotive is like the top creme de la creme.
Amazing.
Yeah, because of just, not only do you have to design a beautiful shape, but it has to function, work, take abuse, like it has to involve all these different elements in order for it to be like considered a good design. Yeah, and it's also like, the cost around it, right? Like you can't really just design one car. It has to be like mass producible, and it has to, really be functional. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
And the aerodynamics as well.
Yeah, the science behind it.
Science, exactly.
Yeah, I'm fascinated when I see a car that is really beautiful. Like, it's almost like music. Like they just fabricated it out of like, clay, but it's like out of nothing. Like it's like a sculptor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the beauty of those cars are possibly like post 80s. Unfortunately, you see cars today, and I guess, like you said, things have to be mass produced. Every part is shared amongst other car companies.
Yes.
So,
and amongst all the classes within their company, right? So, but they used to be much more unique works of art, right?
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you are born in Japan, raised in London.
Yes.
You obviously have a heavy British accent, but you have sort of the aesthetic of the Japanese coupled with like the British sense of humor you mentioned. Do you identify more as a Brit or as Japanese?
Gosh. That's a really good question, because I feel really Japanese, and but then I feel most comfortable when I live in London.
Interesting. You're a lost nomad. So I might argue that you might feel very Japanese.
Yeah.
Because you live in London.
Maybe.
Do you feel very Japanese when you spend some significant time in Tokyo?
Yeah, because when I land in Haneda, and I don't know, I smell and I see Tokyo, it's like, this is home. I really feel like, this is my home.
To your DNA, like down to the core, you feel like it's you.
Yeah.
Right, but you don't feel like a foreigner here. Do you feel like an outsider in London?
No.
You're like dual citizenship completely.
Well, London is so welcoming. Out of all the other cosmopolitan cities I could think of.
It is really.
It's really racially diverse, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep. So now your main work is Bow Wow International. How do you go about getting new clients and new work?
Well, I've become to. I mean, I'm very flattered, but I've been known to be an expert in my field now, and if somebody says, there's a really interesting automotive project that crosses over lifestyle or fashion or design, they will say, you must speak to Mai, or you must meet my friend Mai.
You're at the top of a very short list of right of like there's not even that many of those experts. It's like
it's really unfair. But I fast tracked.
Yeah.
But I have built my quite robust network.
Yeah.
I'm not a networker as such, but I've really built my business around a very solid network. And yes.
Was that deliberate or accidental?
I really think it's accidental.
So you didn't say like, let me pick this really niche sort of like automotive fashion lifestyle thing and like own that.
Not at all.
Okay.
But I think,
you can lie and say, yes, I did. That was my genius idea.
Oops. But when you're really passionate about something and you just read, breathe, smell, drive, as even stunt drive as a service, it's a bit of a joke, but it really is true. I could drive, I could talk about engineering, I could talk about aesthetics and branding of a automotive and where they should take the industry as a whole as well. So yes.
Well, let me ask you this, because you had those different passions innately. Did you ever at one point think like, well, the automotive industry is so stodgy and like, old boys club. Maybe I need to just take a departure from the fashion lifestyle side and just compromise and do it their way, or you just sort of head fast said like, I'm just gonna do it I think is the right way?
I would say that the industry is at a crossroad now. You know, they are still doing the traditional communication, marketing. You know, I think your traditional core customers are still very important in automotive. You know, your petrol heads. You know, I don't want to be too much of a cliche, but the male, high net worth, petrol heads. You know, they're still your core customers, so they still communicate to them in a very traditional manner. But then, you know, if you look at, I don't know, your luxury audience, maybe similar to you in your industry as well, you have to break that audience down and say, well, what is your customer base now? You know, they are more gender neutral and ageless, and and you have to also speak to the women. That's 50% of untapped market that the automotive industry has totally ignored. Or
since the inception of the car, right?
Totally patronized.
Yes.
And, you know, I am a high net worth woman. I don't speak to my husband and ask, what car should I buy, dear? You know?
Can I get the station wagon?
Exactly. So.
But it's funny because, well, when you go on the corporate side of things, do you find an increase in women on like the corporate level of the automobile industry?
Slowly. And, you know, but then it is a very, very, I mean, I feel very comfortable in the automotive industry. I mean, you look at the Me Too, movement going on now. And there's been none of that. Yes, it is a very male-dominant industry, but there's never any disrespect at all. Of course, you know, you still see those girls displayed at the motor shows. You think, my goodness, please stop.
Oh my God, that will never change. I feel like you're talking about the show car model. That's like, for some reason, when you premiere a car, you have to have a scantily clad woman next to it. It's almost like the car's not that well designed, so we're gonna put this beautiful woman like in a bikini so that you don't know what to look at.
Don't look at the bumper.
Don't look at the bumper. Look at her ass instead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
I guess that came out from like the calendars. Where did that? Is it just
the calendar? And the Formula One pit lane pit girls as well. I think they recently banned that. They said from this season, there's no more pit girls.
Wow, that's a progression,
I don't know. Yeah.
You have to lobby for that. Have some like guys up there, right? Like, who's gonna be the first automobile brand that has like a half-naked guy on stage?
That'd be cool. Tap into your gay market.
Right, exactly. High net worth, they buy cars. Yeah.
Embrace your own idiosyncrasies. While your friends and family might find your combination of interests and passions to be very strange, take advantage of them. Use them as an asset to set yourself apart from the pack. Having confidence in that is not a bad thing. Yes, I'm telling you to love your weird self. Mai didn't win a lottery to become an authority on this cluster of disciplines. She lived them. She earned them. Her credentials matter here. And it's fair that she stands apart from the crowd because she comes to the table with a unique pedigree and an equally diverse library of ideas. And within that is value to others. I see this a lot from young creatives I meet. So be mindful of your worth and know how to value yourself.
Being a working woman in the automobile industry, especially an independent, you're not like, you know, an account executive for an ad agency. You don't feel any disrespect or slight when you go into these meetings. You feel like your reputation has sort of cemented itself?
Yes, fortunately, yes. And I speak to really the top players in the industry as well, and they really consult me and my opinions. So I'm really, really grateful that they really believe in me and take my advice or my opinions really, really seriously.
Right.
And, you know, if you look at I don't know, even from a social level, I've been part of a judging panel for a classic car automotive events at a very, very elite level. And, you know, I was like, really? Me? You want me to be on the judging panel? And you see the other judges on the panel, and they are the elderly gentlemen.
Yeah.
And I think, wow, I'm so honored to be part of this. But then the event organizers also see me as this, I don't know, the alternative,
the new generation.
The new generation,
Yeah.
and I represent that new generation and the alternative voice, which is really, really valid in this industry, I think. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Still sticking on your creative agency side, so you get a new client because of your network and your reputation, and somebody calls you up and says, we want you to work on a project, or we want you to do some judging. How do you decide what you're going to charge them? How do you put a price on yourself?
How do you do it, Joe?
Damn. Okay, I'll start. Typically, I do a balance of how much I personally feel passionate about a project versus the dollar amount, and they're sort of like on a scale where it's like, if I'm really passionate about the project and it's really, really exciting to me, then I'll do it for whatever available budget they have. And potentially, if the project is really exciting, even if they have no budget, I might do it because I'm that passionate about it. And the inverse is the same. So if the project is not so personally interesting, it might be good for our portfolio and our resume and like added work, but then the price gets more and more penalizing for that, right? And there's going to be, I think it's important, you know, I don't know why I'm answering this question for you. I'm totally letting you off the hook here. But I think it's important to know, to imagine yourself working on this project and your happiness level on it, and knowing that like, when I get that payment, it will feel fair and good. I'll feel good about doing this job. And know that if there's like a lower number, you'll really hate every day that you're working on that, and try to just keep it above that level, right?
That you summarized it really well. I think there is a barometer that we have inside us. It's that gut feeling, right?
Yeah. And are you pretty strong? Like, you feel good about that barometer that you have?
I think so. I think similar barometer you have. Somebody years ago taught me the formula, the 3 Fs.
Oh, what is this?
It's the fun, fame, fortune.
Okay.
I mean, you basically summarized it. It
that's
has
a good one,
to tick 2 of those words.
Okay, 2 of the 3.
2 of the 3.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Fun, fame, fortune.
Yeah. So, you know, if it's going to be, if it's going to bring fame in terms of your portfolio, you'll do it. And it's going to be fun, you do it.
Right. So what's the worst? If it's just fortune.
Fortune,
That's a really good, the 3 Fs is really good, because sometimes you do stuff admittedly just for the fortune, and you're missing the other 2. And they never are that fulfilling. It's missing the 4th F. Equation equals fulfilling.
But,
so would you say you're quite good at it? Like, or do you still, even in your experience sort of era, do you still find yourself like, man, I should have charged more for that. That really wasn't worth it?
Rarely now.
Okay.
I think my barometer is quite spot on.
Okay.
And also because I'm independent now, I don't have an agency, I can really pick and choose who I work with.
Yeah.
And I have to be really, really, I have to time manage myself very, very well. So if I have even the slightest concern about a client or a project, I have to say no. So the work I do now, and also plus I'm a mother, and you know, I have to be really, really productive with my time.
Yeah.
Mai here provides an awesome life hack with her 3 Fs: fun, fame, or fortune. 2 of the 3 will equal another F: fulfillment. If you only have 1 of the Fs, it won't likely give you fulfillment. So the lesson here is that everyone should have their own formula. Everyone should have their own process in which to gauge work and really effectively gauge happiness, right? After all, we're in this for the creative contribution we're making to the world. And if you could provide some level of fulfillment while paying the bills, that's what it's all about. If you're listening to this, I would love to hear what your formula is. How do you gauge whether you're going to take a project or not? So write in and let me know.
How about in terms of like contracts and like billing on a per project basis versus like a longer term, like a retainer? Is there like a policy that you have for that?
The work naturally tends to work better on a retainer, the things that I do, because they're not, because I'm not a producer, I'm more of a consultant, advisor, you know, I'm more of a long-term partner, yes. So a retainer works much better.
Can you define a retainer for your perspective and for the audience that might not know what a retainer is?
You book my time.
like a psychiatrist?
Like a psychiatrist. You have a part of me and you guarantee my time per month.
Oh, good.
Right?
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
Okay. Versus like a taxi cab driver where like you're on the clock.
Exactly.
When you're on retainer, you don't look at the clock.
No.
Is that right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you say X amount of dollars is sort of like based on the number of hours you think you'll be thinking about this project.
Yes.
And you don't really keep an accounting of like, oh, you've gone over 30 minutes this month.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that doesn't work for creatives to be looking at a clock.
We can't, yeah.
Right? It's hard to be like, I'm going to stop thinking about this project now.
How much is it going to cost the client? Imagine, like, you know, you're always thinking about an idea. You know,
exactly. You could be sitting in a park with your kid and like thinking about this font, you know?
Oh, I dreamt about your project last night. Can I charge you?
Yeah. I had 8 hours of sleep. I'm going to charge you 8 hours for this.
Exactly. That's a good project. That's a good business strategy.
Yeah. I bet some agencies charge like that. I'd love to see you pitching like your ideas to a boardroom. It's probably the funniest thing in the world. It's probably like just laughs and jokes. Like, or are you really buttoned up and professional with your pitches?
Oh my god, you have to ask my clients, I think.
Well, are you like PowerPoint keynote presentation, or are you like, you know, are you really, you know, buttoned up, or do you go in and freestyle it?
I prepare. I really prepare. And I've been told, I have received feedback that I'm very good at storytelling. However, I do go off in tangents, and you know, I have to. That's why I have to really plan my presentation so I don't just fly off and start talking about something totally random. Like
so
this
you
interview.
Like this? No. That's the point of this interview.
That's the whole point.
So you make a PowerPoint and like.
PowerPoint, no. Clients always ask for PowerPoint, but I'll do a PDF, like InDesign.
Really?
PDF, yeah. I cannot do PowerPoint.
Oh.
I was like, oof, it's like, oh, this is horrible.
That's another thing you have in common with Hiroshi. He doesn't even know how to use PowerPoint.
Oh, funny.
Oh, so you create like an agenda, sort of like a talking point in a PDF. Yeah.
Like a proper process of what I'm going to talk about. Otherwise, I can't, you know, my mind will just fly from one conversation to the other.
And then do you get nervous before these things?
Yeah, but then the nerves go away the more you practice. You know, it's like you see these people presenting. I think, well, why do they look so natural? They're not even looking at their notes.
Yeah.
It's because they practice. And I realize, okay, it's because I need practice. And then on the day, I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you still negotiate the dollars? So like the pitch goes well, great, Mai, we want to do this. They still talk to you about the numbers, I assume.
Of course.
Okay.
Don't they? Do you?
I'm trying to remove that aspect from my life.
Like get a lawyer
or a business development person.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's hard for the artist, artist I'm using as a broad term, but the person actually doing the work to be the one also discussing the money.
I agree.
It's almost like going to a restaurant and talking to the chef about how much your steak will cost, like negotiating with like the actual guy cooking, like, hey, can I get a little bit less? What if you cut that steak in half? Can I get half? He's like, dude, I'm cooking the steak. Talk to the person in the front about the money, you know?
That's true. No, you're absolutely right. Those things should be separate. I agree.
Yeah.
If you find a good business developer, can we share that person?
Yes, okay. Also, I think there's a bit of like, you know, and I'm speaking to creatives here, but like there should be like a good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
Because if you're doing the work and there's and you have a client that's sort of trying to squeeze more work / less money out of you, you feel a little bit victimized.
Yeah. And often you get clients say, well, that's a lot of money. They say, oh, well,
Here's the tip. Clients will always say that. That's like that's their job to say that.
That's true.
Like you could have said 50 cents. It's their job to say, how about 45 cents? They wouldn't be doing their job if they just paid the 50. Like,
I'm going to use that next time I see my clients. Jeff said...
Your job. Right. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. This was awesome.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right. Hey, thanks for listening to this insightful episode with the super talented and charming Mai Ikuzawa. As always, you can find out more about the show and listen to other episodes at hypebeast.com/radio. You can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. I personally use Anchor FM. And also leave a comment and tell us what you think of the show. It definitely helps a lot. You can also reach out to me on Twitter. I'm at jeffstaple. And we occasionally answer listener questions on the show. So if you have a question, shoot it over to questions@businessofhype.com. The Business of Hype is created in collaboration with Bright Young Things. You can check out their work at byt.nyc. Our director is Daniel Novetta. Our audio engineer is David Rogers-Berry. And our intern is Sydney Pakumpara. I'm Jeff Staple, and you've been listening to The Business of Hype on Hype Radio.